In this example we're going to be bringing in some text to the application, and what we're going to do is we're going to be loading text from external sources as though we were loading it from a web server, or even just text files within a DVD. So the end outcome will be along the lines of we pull text from a specific source, put it into a text field, and then hopefully do a certain amount of formatting upon that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is have a blank document for this one, just as a test file. So you'll notice in the tools that you've got a text tool, and we're going to be working with the classic text tool. TLF text exists in CS6 but doesn't exist in any of the Creative Cloud versions, so it's not recommended to use it. So classic text, dynamic text, what that means is it's text that's coming from a source other than Flash, really, and then we can draw a box. So if I draw a text box like this to accommodate the text that comes into it, then I set the typeface, the size, we'll make it just a little bit bigger for this, whether we want it to be selectable or not, I've got it turned off at the moment, and also the behaviour, and we'd like it to run as multi-line. Okay, and then we embed the typeface. We want to get probably the uppercase to lowercase. You might need numerals and probably need some form of punctuation. And that should be it. The reason you would choose just a few rather than all text, if you notice the number of glyphs inside the typeface, 93,500 glyphs available, that would obviously have a memory implication. Okay, so with those typefaces embedded, or the typeface we've chosen, I'm going to give that text field an instance name, so I'll just call it info_txt, and we'll be using that to refer to it at a later point. Okay, so on my timeline I've just got one layer. I'm going to create another one just so that I can distinguish where my actions are and where my text field is. And the reason you would work in this way with external text sources is really so you can create a more scalable application, and also to remove or to pull content production away from the actual development. Quite often in industry you would find that different people produce the content to the people who build the products. Okay, now we're going to work on the timeline for now, and that's just for testing purposes. You would incorporate this into your external ActionScript files eventually. Okay, so I've got two files available at the moment, and they're saved in the same folder as this will be to start off with. I've got one which is a HTML file, a very basic HTML file. Actually it's got heading tags in there, but heading tags really don't get any attention in Flash text, but basic paragraphs, list, bold, italics, basic formatting stuff does, so I'll leave that like that. And then also we've got just a basic text document. There's no HTML in there, and it's only really got line breaks. Okay, so we'll be working with the mytext.txt file first. So I'll save this as text example 1, and so the process is we're going to want to use something called URL loader. This will allow us to send out a URL request in theory to another web domain, to a web server, but in practice this will be just a local request to load a file, and we will then respond to when that document has been loaded into memory to handle its contents. So it will look a little bit confusing to start off with, but it's pretty straightforward once we get into it. So I'll just start by commenting this up. So the first thing we're going to do is declare our URL loader instance. This allows us to create. We will then add the event listener. We will then declare the function which responds to that event listener, and then we will load the document. Okay, so we declare just using the normal keyword var because it's a variable, and I'll call it text loader, and that will be URL loader equals new URL loader and then I'll add the event listener to that text loader, so that refers to the name that I've just used here. Dot add event listener event dot complete, and then the name of the function we're going to call. So I'll just put a function called onLoaded, which is pretty descriptive. Then I declare a function, so function onLoaded, and in there we are listening for an event. We get that from this point here where we say what type of event we're listening to, and we've attached that to a little variable called e, and it's just a short hand way of saying event. And then what we'll do is, first off, we will check that it's working, so we'll trace out the information that we get. So e.target dot data, and then we're going for text loader dot load, which is looking for a new URL request, and inside of those brackets and in speech marks we then put the path to the file. So in this case it's called mytext.txt. I'll just save that at that point, and then we'll just test that by pressing Ctrl and Enter. And what we'll see is I've got a blank window currently, and there's nothing in it. But in my output window down here, the text document has been loaded and traced out. All we need to do then is, rather than trace that information out, which I can comment out now, is send that to the info text box. Now the simplest way to do that is info text.text, so that's the text property of the text field, which we'll do first, and that equals e.target.data. So as soon as it's loaded, it will fill the text field with text. Fingers crossed. And there we go. There is the text. Okay, so moving forwards, what I'll do is I'll change that to our second document, which is design text example.html. Save that and test it again. And you'll notice that what it's done is it's brought it through as just plain text. It has certain it brings through the line breaks at least, the text that's coming across. And I think that's because I've saved it as UTF-8 rather than a different character set. So where it says info.text.text, I'm going to change that to HTML text, like so, which goes blue. Save that, and it goes return. You'll notice that what it's done is it has changed the way that things are formatted ever so slightly. You've got the paragraph breaks, we've got our list items, so to all intents and purposes pretty much everything there is working. There we go. And just one more thing really to do. Just check it looks like on this one here. Seems very strange that this version's not doing the italicized text. We'll worry about that at a later point. So the last thing we're going to do is make it scrollable. So let's just imagine that the text field is smaller. I'll test that again, make sure that the text runs off. Okay, yeah, the text definitely runs off. When I'm hovering over it with the scroll wheel and the mouse, I can actually scroll up and down. But that's not really much use unless you know that's going to happen. So what we can do is we can use a pre-built component. I mean, you can also build your own. And what we're looking for in components, which is this little free building blocks for each other, user interface, and then the very last one is UI scroll bar. When we drag and drop that over our text field, you'll notice that it puts a scroll bar on top of it. So when we test it, the scroll bar exists, and we can just scroll it up, down and up like so, and that works quite well. Okay, there are a few things you can do with that. What you can do is in the properties you can change the colour effect using advanced, which allows us to change the alpha, for example, so we can take the opacity of it down a little bit. We can change the colour values, so maybe put the red up and the blue up a little bit, make it a bit purple, so you can make it fit in with your designs a little bit more effectively. It's quite a simplistic approach, but it doesn't look too bad when put into a fine level overarching design. There we go, that's where we'll end this example.